We are facing two existential crises at the same time: climate crisis and biodiversity crisis. Hi, my name is Marina Melanidis, and I am the founder and partnerships director of Youth4Nature. We're an international youth-led organization that is mobilizing and empowering young people all over the world to advocate for and lead on nature-based solutions to the climate crisis. Nature-based solutions that are ambitious, that are backed by science, and are grounded in justice. But what even are nature-based solutions? Yep, okay, good question. Nature-based solutions are ways that we can address both biodiversity crisis and climate crisis at the same time, while also addressing issues around human well-being. Basically, it's a triple win. Nature-based solutions are ways that we can protect, manage, and restore natural and modified ecosystems in ways that are good for the climate, that are good for biodiversity, and are good for people. Examples include protecting old growth forests, restoring coastal ecosystems and wetlands, and practicing agroecology. Both nature and youth are critical parts of the climate solution, yet neither are very well represented in decision-making or policy or finance. At Youth4Nature, we're advocating for both nature and youth through knowledge sharing, capacity building, and storytelling. And today we have 3 young nature and climate leaders that are going to be sharing their stories with you about how they're taking action for nature and climate in their communities. They're coming from all over the world. Check it out.
Hey everyone, my name is Danilo. I'm a forester from Brazil and a PhD candidate in environmental geography at the University of Sydney here in Australia. And I'm pretty much sure that you have already planted a tree in your life. And I have some questions for you. Did you know the species name? And also, where did the seed came from? That can sound a very basic questions, but it's actually one of the main reasons why forest restoration is failing in the world. The UN just announced a decade for restoration. We have this idea that planting trees will create socio-economic benefits while we are restoring ecosystem services. We expect to restore more than 350 million hectares of degraded lands over the next 10 years in order to achieve the Paris Agreement and also other commitments such as the Boom Challenge. But the reality, it's far different from the expectations of these international frameworks. Landscape restoration are failing to promote these goals, mostly because the projects are focused on 3 to 5 different species. So actually, we are talking about a tree farming, mostly focused on economic gains. But actually, they are not really restoring ecosystem services, promoting carbon sink, and also creating livelihoods opportunities for local people. And the problem to include biodiversity in restoration projects is that we are facing a shortage of native seed supply in the world. And then we are not just talking about a problem of developing countries, but also rich countries are facing the same problem. Brazil, for example, is committed to restore more than 12 million hectares of degraded ecosystems over the next 10 years. During my PhD research, I estimate the amount of native seed required to achieve this target. And Brazil will need from 3 to 15,000 tons of native seed. That would be a great opportunity to promote participation because we will need more than 57,000 native seed collectors harvesting, processing, and trading native seed. It would create more than $146 million as cash income for local communities. And this is the opportunity to promote not just inclusion of biodiversity, but also local knowledge and creating local livelihoods opportunities for indigenous smallholders communities. And this is my call for action today. If you are planning to restore a degraded area in your location, or if you are planning to have a large-scale restoration program, you need to include the local biodiversity in your projects. And this is only possible if you have local people engaging in this process. We need to unpack this idea that tree planting will create all the ecosystem services that we need to mitigate and adapt climate change. The only way possible to achieve that it is by including people and their knowledges in those processes.
I am Amanda. I represent Western Europe as youth leader on nature-based solutions. We are here in the Netherlands today in a city called Rotterdam, and this is my parents' house. This is the place where I grew up, which lies 5 meters below sea level.
As most parts of the Netherlands lies below sea level, climate change puts a serious threat on our livelihoods. For a long time, the Dutch government focused on pumping out water as much as possible to keep our feet dry. However, the sea level is rising faster and higher than expected, putting my hometown in a very vulnerable position. Pumping out the water, in combination with prolonged droughts as an effect of climate change, has the result that many parts in the Netherlands experience extreme soil subsidence.
Showers, a water retention basin has been created.
Hello everyone! You just watched the movie in which I showed you a nature-based solution for stormwater protection in my neighborhood. This nature-based solution supports the SDG goals number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, and number 13, Climate Action. So, the water retention basin in the movie protects the city from flooding and simultaneously offers a recreation area to its residents. The basin also contributes to biodiversity by providing foraging and nursing grounds to different species. But most important is, what can you do in your neighborhood to help your neighborhood adapt to climate change? So there are some very simple actions. For example, remove the pavement where it's not necessary to allow the rainwater to infiltrate into the soil. Plant native plant species in these bare open spots to help with rainwater, retain water and provide habitat to your local bees and birds. So you can also do a very fun experiment by creating a rewilding spot. It's a place where you don't do management. You just let it develop as it goes. And you will find out the abundance of species that come to live in your neighborhood. But remember that together you always achieve much more than alone. The same goes for nature-based solutions. The larger its scale, the better they contribute to achieving the SDG goals. So call your neighbors, organize yourself, write to your local government, and explain to them what nature-based solutions are and can do for your community. But I do know that this is not always easy, especially when you're not many people in your environment know about what nature-based solutions are. So therefore, I organize seminars, webinars, and write and meet high officials to share knowledge and get the message of the essential role of nature-based solutions in our lives across. So my call to action to you is: remove the pavement in your streets. Invite your neighbors and your local government officer and share your knowledge. I wish you good luck.
Hi, my name is Elujulo Opeyemi. I'm an environmental scientist from Nigeria. I'm a current postgraduate student of the Institute of Ecology and Environmental Studies, Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria. So my contribution towards the achievement of the goals of sustainable development revolves around repositioning agriculture to the front line of climate and ecological restoration actions. Agriculture contribution to the global greenhouse gas emission as well as deforestation has become a common knowledge. Yes, we understand that we need food, but what, however, is not acceptable is meeting this basic human need at the expense of the values and aesthetics of our environment. So this has formed the basis for my engagement in the change-making space. And what I do basically is to educate local farmers on the benefit of agroforestry and organic farming, and this entails building the capacity of local farmers as well as young people on the production of organic fertilizer using readily available organic waste in our environment. For one, the young people that get trained on the production of this fertilizer, they take it as a form of green business where they can produce and sell this fertilizer to make money. And this is one way that I contribute to poverty alleviation in my community. And also for the farmers that get trained on the production of this fertilizer, they get to use it on their farm as a substitute for the chemical fertilizers that they normally use. And one other benefit that also comes with the adoption and use of this organic fertilizer is improvement in soil quality, thereby enhancing the growing of food, healthy food in an healthy environment. And these are some of the benefits that the agroecological farming system that I promote in my community offers. And to simply put all this, it means that if we want a healthy food system, if we want to live in an healthy environment, and if we want to stay healthy ourselves, agroecology makes all this possible at the same time. So if you are out there and you've ever wondered how you could also contribute towards the achievement of the goals of sustainable development, I want to say this is one way to go about it, and that means that would be you starting right there in your home by composting your organic waste rather than sending them to landfills where they contribute to methane emission, which is also a potent greenhouse gas. And one other thing you could also do is to start growing what you eat in your backyard, and of course in an environment friendly way. Imagine if a larger percentage of us can grow what we eat in our backyard. That would reduce pressure on land by commercial farmers, and it would also draw us closer to achieving food security. So one other thing you can also do is to promote the agroecological farming system among local farmers in your community towards protecting the values and aesthetics of the environment. So I want to encourage every one of us to stay awake to the realities of climate change as well as its impact. But much more than this, I want to also encourage everyone to be motivated enough to drive these change-making actions in our communities towards protecting the values and aesthetics of our environment, because this is one way that we can prevent future pandemics from occurring. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Sébastien Willemart from Belgium, and I'm the regional coordinator at Youth4Nature since a year now. Today, I would like to share with you some of the conclusions of my engagement in climate and biodiversity advocacy in the last years. At Youth4Nature, we advocate for nature-based solutions for climate change mitigation and adaptation. So these actions are to protect, basically sustainably manage and restore ecosystems addressing societal needs and challenge effectively, both providing human well-being and biodiversity benefits. Mangroves are a perfect example of nature-based solution. First, they are one of the planet's most efficient carbon storehouse, with impressive long-term carbon sequestration, more than 45 times greater than any other terrestrial ecosystem, including tropical forests. Second, they serve as nurseries for fish and crabs, as well as a multitude of other insects. They have a positive effect on marine biodiversity as they attract a wide range of beautiful creatures with which we share the planet and from which many depend for food. Third, they act as natural barrier against storms, actually much cheaper than to build any cement infrastructure to protect us, and much more resilient in time also, as they do not require maintenance once they have developed. So what's the fuss about mangrove? As a matter of fact, mangrove are not only essential, they're also a very funny ecosystem to protect. So lastly, I took part in a planting event and I had actually the time of my life. I work in Angola, and during the weekend I joined a group of volunteers who previously broke the record, the world record, by planting 100,000 mangroves in one day. And when we arrived on site, many pink flamingos were waiting for us. So how does it work? Basically, you need to collect the seeds on mangrove trees, gather them, and then organize on an appropriate perimeter. In this case, we were trying to connect existing plots of mangroves separated by the destruction in between for cooking material purposes because of pollution, and some argues also wiped out for coastal infrastructure development who never saw the light. So here we are with the fishermen communities who struggle to get the livelihood that the sea once offered them, and in order to re-establish the natural order, we get our feet in the mud and we found a multitude of seeds ready to drop. What's incredible is that the seed kind of already has a tiny cute plant growing when you take them out of the tree. It's very beautiful. So once collected, we formed lines and we planted around 52,000 of them. And they will be monitored by the NGO that was organizing the event. So that's quite fine. What I learned is that you don't need to be an expert. You need to be open, dedicated, and find expertise where it lies, with initiatives based on science and the knowledge of local communities. I would say, don't hesitate to begin your own local project for nature restoration. Ask for help. Contribute whenever you can. At the end, the resolution of the world problems all depend about fixing the geophysical context in which they occur. So I call you to support Youth4Nature and its mission to make nature-based solutions a substantial part of global climate action. I ask you to be creative and optimistic and exploit this once-in-a-generation opportunity to shift the planetary balance to the better. Thank you, and I will be glad to discuss further with you about all these issues.
Wow, that was awesome. From cities to coasts to croplands to forests, nature plays a critical role in addressing the climate crisis. Nature also plays a critical role in achieving SDGs as a whole. Biodiversity, or the biosphere more broadly, is the basis from which to achieve every single other sustainable development goal. If nature isn't thriving, then neither will we. Youth understand this. We understand this. And we deserve to have access to platforms and opportunities to learn and to grow and to equally participate in intergenerational decision-making and implementation. We deserve to co-create our own futures. Thank you, Danilo. Thank you, Elujulo. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Sébastien, for sharing your stories today and allowing your voices to be heard. If you are a young person that is leading on nature and climate action in your community and you have a story to share, we want to hear from you. Or if you maybe don't have a story to share, but you want to be leading on nature and climate action, and you don't know how, we want to hear from you too. Sign up for the Youth4Nature newsletter or reach out to us on social media. We are at Y4Nature on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And go to www.youth4nature.org/storytelling to hear more stories from young people from over 35 countries around the world who are leading on nature and climate action in their communities, and to learn how to submit a story yourself. Because there is no 1.5 degrees without nature, but there's also no 1.5 degrees without youth.